You are more afraid of being abandoned by a group than you are with abandoning the self. If you have issues with being abandoned as a child by a very needy mother, then you're going to have psychological processes that happen below the veil of consciousness that do not happen with your best friend who grew up with a mother who wasn't needy. All children need to anchor to someone outside of them. All children need to feel safe and protected. When those early connections go awry, it's almost impossible for us to connect to our divine self, and that is not our fault. So the ability to set boundaries really comes down to how well you know yourself and how well you allow yourself to be yourself. What do I mean by that? When you grow up in a home that invalidates you, that causes you to feel unsafe, a home that is unpredictable. And many of us grew up in homes like that. There is said to be over 28 million Americans, for instance, that have grown up in an alcoholic home. Many people are sent to the best of schools, they have the ballet classes, they have the piano lessons, yet there is no significant parent or caretaker that is there for them. And this could be understood as abandonment trauma or an abandonment issue, emotional neglect. You see, all children need to anchor to someone outside of them. All children need to feel safe and protected, especially by a consistent person and loving person, and preferably that is a parent or a significant caregiver. And when those early connections go awry, it's almost impossible for us to connect to our divine self, and that is not our fault. And we spend the rest of our lives hypervigilant, looking outside of ourselves for ways to absolve ourselves of this shame that is connected to codependency. Codependency is rooted in shame. You are not good enough. Love is conditional. You have to prove that you're worthy of my love. Keep begging me for approval. Keep trying to attach to me. Keep trying to get me to see you and validate you. And it's a very maladaptive way to live your life. And most codependents, I would say, don't even know that they're codependent. This is the way that they are. They don't recognize it, nor do most people recognize that life is governed through patterns at the subconscious level. I mean, who teaches us that in kindergarten? We have a thought, we have a feeling, we believe it, we use backwards rationalization. Our psychological self, the aspect of ourselves that isn't even us, it's your psychological personality or your personality self, has been shaped very much by your environment. So that's not even you. It's a product of the environment. What you think, what you feel, how you see, how you perceive. If you have issues with being abandoned as a child by a very needy mother, then you're going to have psychological processes that happen below the veil of consciousness that do not happen with your best friend who grew up with a mother who wasn't needy and that hierarchy wasn't disturbed. In nature, the mama bear takes care of the cubs, and that is the natural order of nature. Well, when you have a needy mother or a codependent mother or a narcissistic mother, for instance, what happens is that hierarchy is disturbed. Now, without that hierarchy, you are going to have trouble with boundaries because you don't know who you are, because you needed a mother bear to tell you you are enough and I love you and I'm going to protect you. And with this feeling safe outside of yourself, then you are able to anchor to that innate self within you. When you're able to anchor to that innate self within you, that happens because you have been able to anchor to a safe, steady person on the outside. Why? Because anchoring yourself to yourself and knowing how you feel and knowing what you think and flushing that out, which is the opposite of hypervigilance. What does she think? What does she need? What do they think about me? Are they upset with me? How can I get back into their good graces? I don't want to be kicked out of the friend group. You see, that is codependency. The fear, you fear more what other people think about you than what you think about yourself. You are more afraid of being abandoned by a group than you are with abandoning the self. So boundaries comes from loving the self, bringing all your awareness back to the self, bringing your focus back to the self. That is how you develop boundaries. And if you're not taking the time to ask yourself, how do I feel? What do I think? And what do I want? What are my values? What is codependency? Do I want to live a codependent life or do I want to live a life of empowerment? Do I want to live as someone who seeks approval from others, or do I want to walk through life with my chin up seeking my own approval? We have to get to a point where we are able to use the left side of our brain. We have to move into the left side of the brain, especially those of us who tend to have thoughts that are so emotional. Have you ever been around somebody who can only talk about highly emotional things, and they're not able to hold conversations about anything that isn't very dramatic or isn't very chaotic or doesn't bring the conversation back to how people have wronged them? That's somebody who's living in the right brain. It makes sense if you have a lot of trauma, if you have a lot of chaos, you have a lot of fear, you have a lot of hypervigilance. But that, in my opinion, means that you don't have very good boundaries because you don't feel safe. Now, our parents were supposed to offer those boundaries to us when we were little, like we offered to my little baby granddaughter. We help make her feel safe. We are the boundaries. So she anchors to us and she feels safe. And within that, the healthy mirroring, she's developing a sense of self. When we become adults, it's up to us to set those boundaries so that we can feel safe. But it's really hard to feel safe when you don't know that you have subconscious patterns going at the subconscious level that act as a paradigm. Literally, all the world is a stage, and you're an actor inside the story of your own ego mind, and you don't know it. To me, that is the saddest thing in the world, that we live below the veil of unknowing. We don't even know there's a veil. We just operate below the veil. Our mind, our ego mind, just backwards rationalizes every thought we have. You can rationalize almost anything. That is how congruent the mind is. It is designed to agree with you. Every cell in your body is designed to listen to you. That's its job. When you have a thought, if you don't challenge that thought with the left side of your brain with logic and reason, then your emotions are going to run the ship, and they're transient. And they're not based on values. They're just based on a trigger lots of the times and what you feel. And when you don't have very good personal boundaries and you're not offering yourself a little dose of logic and reason, you are not from a higher state of consciousness challenging what you think, how you feel, and how you're behaving, then you're going to stay stuck on this karmic wheel. That's what generational trauma is. It just keeps going and keeps going. We need cycle breakers. We need people who say enough is enough. We need people who are really inspired by the idea that no matter what's happened to me, I can change the program 100%. As long as you have the right intention. If you have a desire to leave the world a better place than when you came in, absolutely. If you have the intention of creating a new identity, absolutely. Absolutely. You can change your entire life. I've done it. And thousands of people are doing it. Hundreds of thousands of people are doing it. They're taking it really seriously. And the groundbreaking science, neuroscience research proves that we can do this. Neuroplasticity proves that we can do this, but we have to take it seriously. And it comes down to understanding what we're doing wrong. Codependents don't know what they're doing wrong. They just keep doing the same thing over and over and over and expecting a different result. And codependents don't have boundaries. We don't have boundaries because we never anchored to somebody on the outside in a safe way. And so we're like trying to figure out what the boundaries are. And we don't have many boundaries. We give ourselves over to other people. Many of us are born, I think, with the caretaker archetype. But when you add codependency on top of it, you literally are a slave to other people's needs and you don't even know it. It's just, that's what you do. It's impossible to say no. You keep saying yes. And then you secretly resent them. So your work is to learn when to help and when not to help. Your work is to learn how to put yourself first. Your work is to carve out some time for yourself. Your work is to figure out that you're a 3D person, and so is that other 3D person, and you have a right to have feelings that are different than other people. And you can learn, and you can expand, and you can develop emotional regulation and emotional intelligence and walk through life with your head held high and with your chin held high. That's not narcissistic. It's narcissistic if you act in a way that is at the expense of other people and you lack empathy. But when you stay in your own lane and you are all in your head about what you think and what you feel, what you want, and you're loving yourself and you're bringing your passions to the 3D world and you're understanding your place in the world and you're considerate of other people and no longer at the expense of yourself, you, dear one, have found the path to building better boundaries. And I would like to encourage you to check out the Boundary Building Workshop. That is a workshop that I did that we offered for over $250, and you can have the workbook that I used in workshop, and you can also get a bonus MP3. It's just our way of spreading this message and making it available to you so that you can start understanding what is a boundary, how can I set a healthier boundary, how can I live in alignment with my true self, and how could I start getting over codependency and living a more authentic life so that I can live with passion and purpose and be my true self and speak my truth without being afraid. I mean, it's just amazing on the other side of codependency. And I wish you so much luck on your journey. And if you would like to learn how you can work with me, visit www.lisaaromano.com or send me an email at coach@lisaaromano.com. And either I or a member of our team will be happy to respond to you. Namaste, dear one, is about to the love and light that is absolutely in you. Remember, there's a light inside of you, but you'll never find it if you keep looking outside of you. Until next time, bye for now. Hey, if you love this content, don't forget to check out the next video, and you can go to my website and take the codependency quiz.